Yo, what's up? It's Michael Faze, and for today's video, I'm going to show you guys how I made my own version of Armin van Buuren's Be in the Moment lead. Now, before we begin, make sure that you hit that like and subscribe button on Facebook or YouTube, Instagram, whatever the hell you have, and so you don't miss out on any new content. Now, without further ado, let's begin. In this project, I've loaded an example, and this is what it sounds like.
I want to be in that moment.
Really cool, very fun, and I had a blast making this. So while I was making this, I found that there was 5 keys to achieving this sound. One of them being the 4-mid filter, 2 the envelope modulation, 3 the flanger, 4 distortion, and lastly and muy importante, the compressor. Now that I've covered that, let's move on to the sound design. Now for this tutorial we're going to be using Xfer's Serum. I use it almost all the time in all my videos, you guys see it. So we're going to be using 2 oscillators for this, and for oscillator A and B we're going to set the octave to -3, -3, -3, and for oscillator A we're going to be using 7 skies ABLM, and we're going to set the wave position to 78 or 80, and then we're going to put bend plus or minus and set it to about 50, and then put the detune to 16, bring it down to 0.06, and put the blend to 48. We're going to set the signal to mono, put always scaled, and set the porta to 8 milliseconds and the curve up to 30%. Oscillator B, we're going to do the same thing with the unison at 16, detune it at 0.10, blend it to about 30%, and then get the FM signal from A. Now for oscillator B, we're going to be using basic shapes, and we're going to go into the saw. So right now I'm going to lower the volume so you don't get nothing too crazy loud, and this is what the lead sounds like right now. Really cool, and we're pretty close to the sound already. Next, we're going to add a filter, and for this filter we're going to be using the 4-mid 1, and we're going to assign it to B since it's getting most of the noise from the FM on A. And we're going to set this cutoff to 10, put the mix at 20, set the drive to all the way up, 4-mid to about 70, and then we're going to bring the pan slightly off, so about 28, safe measure. Alright, so next we're going to set the envelope. Envelope 1 is going to be going into the volume for A and B. So for this, we're going to be setting the volume to 33 on each side. And then the amount that the envelope is pushing is 100. And then we're going to set the decay to envelope 1 to be 2.5 seconds. The sustain -1.5 dB, then the release 9.6. Should sound like this. Pretty cool. It has a lot of drive. Next, we're going to be jumping into the effects section. The effects section, we're going to be using filter as our first. And then we're going to set the band 12 and put the cutoff at 4200. And next, we're going to put the res at 10%, drive to about 30, FAT all the way up, and then the mix to about 30. Next, we're going to assign envelope 2 to the cutoff so we can mess around with the movement in the sound. We're going to set the amount that it's moving at 100, and then for envelope 2, we're going to make this pretty snappy since it's going to be playing with the movement of the band. And we're going to just manually do this. Set this right here. Do this right there. Sound like this. Alright, that's pretty cool. And next up, we're going to set the flanger. Flanger is going to be on BPM, and the rate's going to be at 12. Then the depth is going to be at 10 or 20%. Let's go with 10. And then we're going to go to feed at 60%, and the mix at about 15. And we're only doing this because we want some slight movement, nothing too drastic. It's just to keep the sound moving and sort of interesting. And next is going to be the distortion. We're going to be using Linfold for this one, and the drive is going to be at 15%, and the mix is going to be at 30. You should get something like this. All right, pretty cool. So next we're going to be setting the EQ, and the EQ is going to be doing something really simple, and it's just cutting out frequencies at 4500 with a bell, tightened at 80%, and then we're going to bring it down to maybe negative 10 dB. Now to add more movement, we're going to add another bell, and we're going to keep this towards the body of the synth, and we're going to go to about 450 and use envelope 2 to move through the body. Pretty cool. Next, we're going to set the hyper and dimension, and we're going to set the size to about 20, set the mix to 20, do the unison to 6, then the mix to 10, and that's totally fine. I like it the way it is. Now we're almost done. Now, as I mentioned before, this is going to be the most important step, and that's the compressor. The compressor is going to be set to multi-band, and what we're going to do is that we're going to set the threshold to about negative 30, ratio 3.1, 3.1, not 3.1. English today, Mike. And then we're going to set the attack to 400, leave the release the way it is, bring this up by 14. Then we're going to set the band to about 148, and then this maybe a little bit lower, and then bring this up, not too high. And then we're going to set this mix to about 80, and then we should get this. And that's how you get the sound. That's pretty much it for today. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends through your socials, or your producer buddies. And if you'd like to see more videos, subscribe so you don't miss out on anything. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time.